13, we'll do the same thing, conduct a public hearing on rezoning tax parcel IDs. There's several, I'm not going to read them all. But again, staff, I assume, will have a presentation. Yes, sir.
Thank you. We'll get right started right into it. This is rezoning request for 7 parcels in the Craeberne Forest area. The applicant is McCullough Farms, LLC, and the location is those county parcel ID numbers 8210, 11002, 11003, 11004, 11006, 11009, 11010, and 23000. Existing zoning for those properties ranges between A5F and A5 and R10. The proposed zoning for all of these would be R6 residential. The total size is 413.3 acres, plus or minus. And the history background for this site, it has seen a mixture of agricultural and forest land uses, and the present land use is forestry. So here we have a sample of looking into the site from along Silverway. And here we have a map of the entire area. So the area that's in the cross hatching, it has some green background behind it. And then the small rectangle on the left side that has double cross hatching. That is the entire area. The other areas that are yellow and orange and not cross-hatched, let's put it that way, are other parcels surrounding this property. The green area underneath the cross-hatching is the A5F zoning district. The small little triangle or rectangle in the lower left of the property is the area that is the A5 zoning district. The ETJ is actually right along the periphery of the left-hand side of this property. And that's why none of that has any color. Anything that's white is outside of our jurisdiction. So the existing zoning A5 and A5F agriculture districts is designed to promote agricultural forestry operations and to allow for low-density single-family development on 5-acre minimum lots. The R10 residential district is designed to accommodate single and 2-family homes with 10,000 square foot lots and 5,000 square foot for each additional lot. The area of that, the R10 area is so small you can barely see it on that map. It's really where the road is between the 2 subdivisions that are already there. So the proposed zoning is to convert all of that to R6 residential district, which is designed to accommodate single, 2, and multi-family dwellings with 6,000 square foot minimum lots for 1 dwelling unit and 2,000 square feet required for each additional unit. So general survey of the allowed uses in the R6 is single-family residential, multi-family residential, duplex residential, churches, nursing care institutions with a special use permit, emergency service stations, also with a special use permit. Surrounding zoning to the north on that map at the top, so it is agricultural forested, the A5F. And the south is forested and vacant, but it ranges between R20, A5F, and C3. To the east, it is forested with A5F and residential with R6. And to the west is forested with A5, R20, and A5F. For the utilities, all city-provided utilities and services are available to the general area. So according to the 2022 land use plan, the subject parcels are located within the MLK Boulevard focus area for future growth, as well as Opportunity Zone B with the future extension of North Carolina 43. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard is classified as principal arterial. And Trent Creek Road and Savoy Drive are classified as local streets according to DOT's functional classification. The site will have frontage along the future NC 43 extension. According to the regional land use plan, the subject property has areas of medium suitability for development. There are no known environmental hazards on this property. And according to the North Carolina floodplain mapping program, none of the subject parcels are located within the 100-year or 500-year floodplain. So the recommendation, the proposal to rezone the subject property to R6 residential district is consistent with the character of the surrounding land uses previously developed by the applicant. Staff has found the proposed rezoning to be in the public interest and consistent with city land use plan being located within the NLK Boulevard focus area for future growth, as well as Opportunity Zone B. Staff has no objection to approval of the requested rezoning.
That's your presentation?
Yes.
Mr. Davis, I'll refer to you. At the time when the applicant placed this application for rezoning, I was listed as a manager, not a member, but a manager of the LLCs, which I am no longer associated with. Could you provide some direction or clarity with that?
Yes, sir. Mayor, members of the board. I know all of you are curious about the law on this issue, and as we wind up to that answer, several of you have reached out to me with some excellent questions, so I'm going to respond to those questions for the benefit of everyone, and then we'll conclude with what's the law on the matter. A question about how does the city verify whether or not a public official has an ownership interest in an entity that might come before you. There are two things we do. First thing we do is we ask you, do you have an ownership interest in that entity? The second thing I do is I personally follow up with the attorney that represents that entity just to verify that there is no public official that has an interest in that entity. That's all we can do in that entity. That's all we can do. It's the best we can do. You know, the other question I got is, what do you do if you think you have a potential conflict of interest? The first thing you do is you contact me directly. I prefer that you find me days in advance of the issue. Don't spring on me live when the issue comes up. That's better than nothing, but give me some time to reflect and chat with you. Sometimes the answer can turn on some facts that the two of us might have to verify together, but it's always best to reach out to me in advance so that we can talk it through. In fact, that's what Alderman Odham did in this case a number of years ago when this situation first came to pass, so that he would alert me to this issue so that the two of us could monitor it as the years went by in case it ever became an issue. Third question I got. How do you recuse yourself, and what's the procedure to excuse you from voting? If we conclude that there is a conflict that could legally excuse you from voting, we ask someone to entertain a motion to that effect, to excuse the member from voting. And then the board, you will collectively vote to let that member off the hook and not vote. There's really no such thing as recusing yourself, okay? And I'll come back a little bit later in more detail, but the better practice is to have the board excuse you from voting. Otherwise, we're left with a legal conundrum as to whether your refusal to vote, and that's what a recusal is. In this context, it's a refusal to vote. We're left with a question as to whether or not that is legally valid and whether or not that counts as a yes vote. If you don't vote without being excused, it is a yes vote in favor of the motion. All that lines up to the law on this. There are 4 separate statutes that dictate whether or not you may or may not have a conflict of interest. We have the general statute in 168, section 5. That's where the first line of the statute says you have an obligation to vote, and that is oftentimes counterintuitive from the public's point of view. We start with the presumption that you were elected to do something, and that is to vote. You ran on platforms, you have ideas that you expressed, and people want to hold you to those ideas. So the burden is on you to vote, even when that vote can be very uncomfortable. However, even in 168.75, it says, if you have a direct personal benefit on the subject of your vote, you you can be excused from voting. So that's the general premise. We then have a criminal statute that backs that up, and that's in 14234. And it says, depending on the nature of your ownership interest and the money involved, if you don't disclose it and vote on that matter, it's actually a crime. That's the important one that we worry about a great deal. We then have two sections in 160D 109. I'm going to start with the more confusing one. That's in subsection D. That is for quasi-judicial proceedings. And that's the one that gets a lot of folks tripped up, because that subsection doesn't apply to you as a legislative body. That applies to the Board of Adjustment, because that is the board that exclusively addresses quasi-judicial issues in the city of Monroe. Those are special use permits and variances. Those two issues have specific legal standards. That's why they're called quasi-judicial. Not judicial because they're not actually legally judges, but those standards involve property interests where people are entitled to those permits if they meet their burden of proof. So in those instances, we have a much different standard. And it's a standard that you'll see in court. If you go to district or superior court, where you might see a judge recuse him or herself because of the appearance of impropriety. If you serve there long enough, you'll see a judge say, hey, I know this person, they're my neighbor, or I go to church with them. I'm going to recuse myself and have another judge hear this case. That standard applies at the Board of Adjustment because it's more like a judicial process. That subsection D doesn't apply to you. Subsection A applies to you. And that applies when you're dealing with a land use matter, and really the only one that comes before you are rezonings. Subdivisions are taken care of on our technical board, that's the planning and zoning board. So the only thing that comes before you under 160D 109A are the rezonings. And that provides that you have an obligation to vote unless you have a familiar business or associational relationship with the subject matter. Family is defined. That's great, very helpful. And you guys have probably read that section. You see what it means. That's new in the last couple of years. But that whole second sentence of 109A is new in the last couple of years. For decades and decades, we only had the first sentence, that you couldn't vote on something to your direct personal benefit. Now we have a little more direction, and it tells us what family means. Business, we're left to common sense. And then we have this associational relationship. And in North Carolina, we don't have any statutory guidance as to what that means. We don't have any case law as to what that means. But in looking around the country, we find several cases that tell us in one state, an associational relationship could be being a member of a nonprofit that comes before you. In another case, we have a physician-patient relationship, where a patient of a doctor who's serving as a public official has a rezoning, and in that case, the court concluded that's an associational relationship that can excuse you from voting. And the last one I found is being a member of a church that comes before you. So using those commonsensical analogies to the present case, where the mayor, at the time the application was started, was a manager, I would view that much like being a member of a nonprofit, being a member of a church, so that there is an associational relationship. Even though it doesn't exist tonight, I think since there was that relationship in place when the zoning matter went to the planning and zoning board, I think it would be appropriate and fine if you wanted to excuse the mayor from voting tonight. If you wanted to do that, someone would make that motion and the board would discuss it. Questions as to all of that?
Attorney Davis, so can you define for me, please, what, and I know we read it, but for the public sake, what does family consist of? Family members?
Yes, ma'am. Family is going to pick up your spouse, your parent, your child, brother, sister, grandparent, or grandchild. And those include steps, haves and in-laws of all of those relationships.
So, if my brother, I just want to give an example. So if my brother-in-law wants to have a piece of property rezoned, then I should ask the board to recuse me from voting on that issue, on that rezoning.
Yes, ma'am, exactly.
Okay. So then, well, and the reason why I say that is because that happened to me when my brother-in-law went through the process of wanting to build his house. But I was not aware of the fact that that's what we as a board were supposed to do.
Yes, ma'am.
So moving forward, now that I know,
Yes. When in doubt, reach out, but to take some pressure off you, that law's been in place for the last year and a half.
oh, okay.
Prior to that, we had a much narrower law that really was typically interpreted as you and your spouse.
Okay.
So, whatever happened is fine.
Well, that's good. At least now I know I won't go to jail.
No, ma'am.
I just wanted that to be explained.
Good question.
Okay.
Mr. Attorney?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
In your investigation and conversations with the property owners council, did you find where the mayor had any issues or any reasonable interest in this property?
No, sir. The attorney confirmed to me that he, at no point in the history of the entity, had an ownership interest in the entity.
And so you don't find any reason why he should be recused from?
The only, not for the business association, but for the associational relationship. The fact that at the time the application went to P&Z in the last 4 to 6 weeks, he was serving as the manager at that time. And I think that is enough of an associational relationship that if you wanted to, you could excuse him from voting.
What would your recommendation be on this?
I would leave it to you. I think you're safe to excuse the mayor from voting. There are times where I would say absolutely not, that public official should not vote. This one is in that area where tonight the mayor, we cannot check all the boxes on that statute as we sit here tonight. However, the fact that it started a month or two ago at P&Z, I think puts enough color on it that I would be very comfortable with the board excuse the mayor.
Well, then I'll make a motion that we excuse the mayor, or excuse the mayor from voting on this particular rezoning.
I have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
I have a second. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Okay, so are we good to move on
Yes,
to
sir.
public hearing?
Yes, sir.
All right, at this time, I will open the public hearing for anyone who has comments for or against the requested rezoning. Please come to the mic, state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Liddell. My address is 111 Westwood Court. I am a resident in Craeberne Forest and have been since 2016. And before I go into what I prepared, I really quickly want to add, today in conversation with a lot of our neighbors, something that has come up a ton is, why are you going? Why? You're not going to make any changes to the board's decision. They've already got their mind made up. Well, I am a high school teacher. Something I try to tell my students all the time is, unless you are willing to speak up, you can never affect change. So that is my answer tonight. I will not deny that affordable housing in New Bern is a great need. As a parent of soon-to-be 3 children and a teacher married to another public servant, a home that is priced at over $200,000 is just not affordable. However, in moving to this community, I have in mind that I'd be living in a more bedroom neighborhood that prioritized community. When the developer speaks at residential meetings annually, he continues to maintain that this is priority. He states he's vested in our community, but I'll be honest, many of us question his ability to truly do so when his primary residence is in the Philippines. Per the article in New Bern Now, it states the plan is to grow this community by another 600 homes. The zoning request for the zoning ordinance will lower the size requirements for lots stacking homes on top of one another. This is an issue that the current phase has created discord over. Additionally, it does state that mobile homes and mobile home parks could be permitted and would be subject to the standards described in sections 15-164 and 15-165, as well as multiple family units. In speaking with many of my fellow neighbors, we are concerned for such a broad prospect for the future of our neighborhood, as none of these are fitting with the bill of goods we were sold when building or moving into this community. It continues to demonstrate to us that Mr. McCullough's priorities are not for the best interest of this development and community, but solely his own. A concern myself and many others have with this rezoning request is additionally the current condition of Trent Creek Road. While I understand the desire to not pour more money into a road that is slated to become something else by the state, this project as a can that is being kicked down the road. And further research with NCDOT, I found that the state is in negotiations for a right-of-way for the remaining 2 sections of road. However, they have assured me this is not a quick process. I would like to ask that the developer be required to provide improvements to all of Trent Creek Road and turn over any roads to NCDOT, City of New Bern, before putting construction traffic and another estimated 600+ cars onto it. Additionally, ingress and egress of traffic from 17 to Trent Creek Road and into the subdivision is of great concern. Until the 43 connector is complete, I have major concerns that we're looking to funnel 1,300+ cars when you consider Arcadia Village and the now proposed 600+ cars into Craeberne onto one road daily. We've already expressed major issues with our current number of residents off this road, moving from Trent Creek Road onto 17. I think safety needs to be further looked into before adding more cars to the single entrance and exit. Additionally, I believe our city is currently working to address some drainage issues that we have off of city-owned roads. But again, this has not been resolved, and honestly, the attempts have been subpar at best. If you drive through our subdivision, you'll see cuts under the grass, some flowing in the wrong direction for appropriate drainage. When we have sustained rains like we had this weekend, there were nothing more than mud pits. I'm not sure what the plan is in place with environmental and zoning regulations, but I do feel that better drainage, especially as we create more impervious areas, needs to be addressed. At the end of the day, I'm very aware that money talks. Our developer seems to have that in mind, and that is the bottom line, and who can blame him? He's a businessman, and he is not here regularly to see and address the ongoing issues in his communities that he has developed. Despite his connections to our community, this development should receive no different or special attention. I've heard from a few neighbors, as I said, about what is the point of coming here tonight. They feel that this vote is a foregone conclusion. I believe that we have a right to vote for our aldermen. We have a right to come and express our concerns to you all, and I ask, as you consider this tonight, you consider it as if you lived in our community. We are very tight-knit. We love one another. We always try to be right by each other. If there is a way to delay this vote for tonight, I would encourage you to come over and walk in our neighborhood. We have some of our neighborhood walkers here with us tonight. Ponder but an additional 600 homes and subsequent traffic would mean to families with small children who enjoy riding their bikes. Our older residents who take solace in knowing they can walk in a relative safety without a ton of traffic, and a community where neighbors can come together to make great things happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Davis, could you clarify? I don't believe there's a time limit for a public hearing, is that correct?
Kathy Robinson, okay. 22 Craftsman Drive. We lived in Craeberne Forest for 4 years, and whenever possible, we've always gone to the homeowners meetings. Most recent, when we had the summer, when the rezoning request came up, there was a discussion about the desire for 600 more homes in the 2 phases. We were not aware until recently, in the last several days, actually, that R6 included a lot of commercial properties, things that would bring multifamily apartments, tons of things that we were not aware of. At the very least, I would ask for more time so that our community can be made aware of what exactly changing to an R6 would mean. Part of that, I don't know, the map that you had up there, one small part that's already R10 that's requested to be R6. We would like to see that left as R10 and not change the density on those units, and making the AF5 and the AF also be R10, and keeping with our current neighborhood layout. Safety is also a concern for me. My husband is disabled. You can't ride bikes on sidewalks, so he has to ride recumbent, and you have to ride those on the street. The addition of all this extra traffic makes this a real concern to our family, and so we would ask for y'all to consider making both of those R10 instead of R6, and allowing a little bit more time for community input from our neighborhood. And now that people are aware, it includes those additional commercial things that we were not aware of.
Thank you. Matt, could Scott, would it be appropriate for staff to show the permitted uses?
I think that might help get everybody on the same page, yes, sir.
And also, just to clarify on the first question or concern, trailers are not, mobile homes are not permitted in the city of Denver, is that correct?
Yes, sir. Manufactured homes.
The Class B, which are the double wide, are allowed in the A5 and R6. So it would be
Speak of
A5,
like,
R9, and R6.
sorry.
The Class B mobile home, which is a minimum of 2 pieces and minimum of 20 watts, commonly referred to as a double wide. Those are all allowed by 85, R20, and R6.
Did you say they are allowed?
They are allowed.
Yes.
They're allowed now, and they would be allowed if there was a change to R6. So I think it's also a question about multifamily.
So with R6, multifamily is allowed, whereas under A5 it is not. A5, it's a special use permit, so it won't make any difference.
Yeah, just to be clear, multifamily is allowed in an R6, and it's allowed in an A5F. So again, no change in the use.
Could you clarify the question about commercial that's allowed in R6?
No, hardly any commercial, but any of
Colleen, could you go to the slide that showed, I think there was. Right there.
For R6, you've got nothing, mostly like library.
Can you speak up, please?
You've got a few limited uses like institutional. You don't have anything allowed in recreational commercial. Beyond probably owned recreational facilities like a golf course and publicly owned outside. Nursing care institutions, special use.
I think it's a small business. Why isn't that up there?
Police stations, fire stations, rescue squads, utilities, telecommunications tower, cemetery, special use. That's it. R6 is a residential district.
So to be clear, no commercial allowed in R6.
No commercial allowed.
Alderman Best, are still in
Oh.
No commercial.
What is considered commercial, if this is showing nursing care institutions, emergency churches? What do y'all consider commercial or not?
The question is, what is considered commercial? Because these uses are not considered commercial.
I think some of that's up for interpretation. What we have listed under office go through it. For, first category are sales and rental of goods. None of those are available, none of those are in R6. That's sales of goods, retail. You don't have any kind of retail options in R6.
Any kind
Down
of
to office, you can have a government office, otherwise that's it. No other offices, private real estate office. So, that's why. Move the next manufacturing. So, industrial uses, none of those allowed. Educational, cultural, religious, elementary and secondary schools are special use permit, churches, synagogues, etc. Are a special use permit through the Board of Adjustment. Moving on. There's libraries that are allowed for special use permit, as you said before. Recreation, amusement, entertainment in R6. Privately owned outside recreational facilities such as golf course, country club, etc. are allowed. Publicly owned and operated outdoor recreational facilities, fields, golf courses, etc. Those are allowed. Moving on to institutional, residential, nursing care institutions, intermediate care institutions, handicap and firm. Those are allowed by special use permit, Board of Adjustment. No restaurants, no motor vehicle related stuff, no storage, no primary services, mini storage, etc. Emergency services are allowed by special use permits, police, fire, rescue squad. Agricultural, mining, none of that's allowed. Miscellaneous public and semi-public facilities, none of those are allowed. Down in the towers or utilities are allowed through special use permit. Communication towers are allowed. Cemeteries allowed through a special use permit. Temporary structures are allowed through the construction project. Nursery schools are a special use permit, and that's it.
Mayor, maybe this will call Ellen. I need staff to just verify my thinking on this. We're trying to deduce what's the difference with what we currently have in an A5 versus converting to an R6. Churches are allowed in every zone in the city by federal law. Nursing care institutions are allowed in A5s and R6s. There's no change there. Emergency service, same for A5, R6. I believe the only difference is that in an A5, lots cannot be 6,000 square feet. Am I right?
Yeah, the minimum 5 acres.
5 acres or R20?
R20 is 20,000 square foot. A5 and A5 have 5 acre lots.
Okay, so in an A5, you can have a single family home, but it has to be on 5 acres. A farm, small farm. In an R6, you'll have 6,000 square foot lots, like the zoning of the current adjoining subdivision. That's the real difference.
Thank you, staff. We'll get back to the public hearing. I believe someone was on the way.
Actually, can I say something? With all due respect, did the mayor recuse himself, or did I hear that wrong?
Yes.
I've been recused. So is there a reason why you're participating in the conversation? From my understanding, I thought it was...
No, ma'am. The board excused him from voting on the issue.
He's
chairing the meeting. He's chairing this meeting, but he is not going to vote. He's been excused from voting on the substance of the question.
Okay, I'm just asking because I've watched other city council meetings across North Carolina, and if the person that was supposed to be recused, they sit in the audience and they don't participate in discussion because it could influence the other board members. Is that not, am I misunderstanding?
Some do that, but
Okay.
on this issue, the mayor is going to chair the meeting, but not vote.
Thank
on
you,
the
I
substance.
appreciate that. That's why you're the attorney.
Hi there, my name is Brandon McCullough. I'm actually the daughter of the man that I was speaking about. He could not be here this evening. He is actually very sick. He just got back in the country and was here specifically for this meeting.
Could you give your address for the record?
Sure, absolutely. I'm a proud citizen of Ward 3, Mr. Aster's ward, 2000 Snapper Street in Blue Water Heights. I'm just going to keep this very short and to the point. But my family's business, my father's business, has been in existence since I was about 4 years old. And in that time, that business is responsible for building almost 700 affordable homes within the city, over 700. So that being said, when you look at Craeberne Forest, and when we're asking the Alderman, Board of Aldermen to just consider this request, we're just asking for rezoning. We're not talking about streets, we're not talking about sidewalks, we're not talking about those matters. We are talking about at the 50,000 foot level, can we talk about rezoning? Because the main issue here, that if my father was here right now, I know that he would bless these words, and I know he's watching right now. The main issue is this: do you want a big box store to be put back there? Do you want a commercial, any kind of, massive commercial complex to be put there? We want to focus on residential. That's the end goal. It's just more of the same with Craeberne Forest. Basically to copy and paste Craeberne Forest as it is and do the same thing with whatever developer might take that forward. Craeberne Forest, for what it's worth, that was a 14-year development. It's a highly mature development. We're not talking about whichever developer or builder goes in, throwing up a ton of houses immediately. Craeberne Forest has been here for 14 years and has grown to 300 homes over that time. The next two phases, phase 3 and phase 4, there would be another 300 per phase. That being said, we're not talking about whatever builder coming in throwing up homes overnight. We're just saying sustainable growth to answer the issue of the need for housing in New Bern. I cannot say the word residential, residential, residential enough. I cannot say that word. So that's what we respectfully request. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Donna Fitzgerald. I live at 513 your namesake, Odham Lane. We moved here a year ago this year. And we moved from Virginia for the sole purpose of the quiet streets of Craeberne Forest, not the busy growth that's been in Virginia. In addressing this young lady, if it's just residential, then why isn't it just being asked for R10, which does not include multi-family apartments? We got West New Bern going up. There's a lot of growth for housing, and I would like to see it either R10 or stay as it is. That's all. Thank you.
I'm Amy Farron, and I live at 409 Elsmore. My husband and I have been in Craeberne Forest for about almost 5 years now. Again, we've lived in Charlotte, big city. We've lived in Pamlico County for 14 years, out in the middle of the woods and on a creek. And when we got to the point in our lives that we are now, we chose Craeberne Forest because of its quiet, multiracial, multicultural, multi-generational, whatever, neighborhood, walking on the streets, walking, bicycle riding. And if this changes to R6 instead of the R10 that it is currently, it's going to affect that whole area. And right now, there was one bad traffic accident, one out on 17 where Tree Creek dead ends, and there was no way for any of us to get out of the neighborhood because that whole area was blocked. We can't afford to add more houses, more whatevers, until some of this situation is addressed. For probably almost an hour and a half, people couldn't get into their homes and we couldn't get out. Please reconsider this R6 situation and please leave it for at least R10 until some other road sidewalk management can be dealt with. Thank you.
My name is Marilyn Boglin. I live at 302 Bungalow Drive in Craeberne Forest. I agree with all that's being said here, and I urge you to vote no on this rezoning. Patrick's daughter says residential, residential, residential. But if it's rezoned, what's to stop Patrick from selling it to a different developer and having him bring all of this stuff in to our neighborhood that we want to keep quiet? 3 years ago, Patrick told us behind Bungalow Drive, he was going to be building 2-bedroom, single-level patio homes. He turns around and sells the property. The developer has now put up 27 2-story, 3-bedroom homes. The one that's right behind us gives us 3 feet between our property lines. So I'm really urging you to table this and give it much, much more consideration. Thank you.
Seth, let me ask you, during departmental review, do you look for additional means of egress out of this area?
Right now, the ordinance requires.
I'm sorry, say that
Right
again?
now, the ordinance only requires one access, all new subdivided lots, you gotta access the public street. There's no minimum of 2 or spacing, but, I do know that this property is anticipated to have perhaps 2 on-ramps on the 43. Of course, the 43 is not built yet. They're also going to have perhaps 3 ways in and out.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to ask Alderman Brinson, have you had a chance to meet with the residents and discuss some of these concerns?
I have gotten statements from some of these residents, in fact, some of them are here tonight. And we are still in the public hearings, I think we should deliberate at this time.
Anyone else from the public have comments?
Diana Whitmire, 225 Bandon Drive. For both Mr. Odham and Mr. Brinson, Mr. Odham, you and I have had discussions before, so you know some of the issues in the neighborhood. You're helping me right now deal with that water problem, the 2 problems at the corner. I said the city has been good. We're all kind of looking and we can't figure how water can run uphill. You're seeing that too. That has been like that when you were an older person, you're now. That hasn't been resolved. Why? Can anybody tell me? I mean, I have tried to address it, and I don't really get any, we can't get it done. Why? Anybody got any answers for me? This is what we're worried about, more water. I walk every day. The one corner I told you, and I understand, is people cutting the corner so there's a pothole. The drivers do that. But the stones are all going up on the sidewalk. So we've got the moms with their strollers, we got me, mature, walking, and we have the other corner full of water that I have to walk in the street. So something's wrong with that, and before you keep going further, maybe we need to fix some of the issues that we have. And you know I've reached out to you a lot, and you know I've reached out to you a lot. I did tactfully, I wasn't going to speak because I normally do behind the scenes, but you looked at it too. All this digging, all this time spent by the city for water to go uphill into the ponds? Does that make sense to you?
No, it doesn't.
Okay, thank you.
That was the original design, and the water's supposed to, the way it was designed, the water was supposed to go over the sidewalk. Not saying that was a great design. We may have to end up taking a look at it and fixing it, but that was the original.
Well, what's happening, and somebody, if you can clarify with this, my understanding, and I don't know a lot, okay, the city, before they took over the streets, certain items had to be met. Then I was told something changed in that the city would take it over, but if something needs fixed, they would bill the developer, which would be Patrick. Does anybody can tell me that? No. So if that wasn't feasible initially, why did the city take over the street? I guess that's what I'm not understanding. No answers, right? I know. Mr. Odham didn't have answers at the time either.
Mr. Alderman Brinson, I'd be happy if you want to meet with staff one day and we can go out there and look at all these issues.
And I get the one where the drivers are cutting over. I get that, that's everywhere. But the other one, it just makes no sense because the water runs down. And I have been told by the city besides this, because I have a ponding in front of my driveway. When the developer did from one phase to another, they didn't connect it right. Okay? So why would the city take over the street if it wasn't done right? Just simple questions that I have, because I'm not going to tell anybody how to fix it, I don't know. But things aren't right, and I'm asking for help for 5, 6 years on that one thing, now 2 different aldermen. Please help. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Any more public comment?
I'm sorry, I have thought of something again, Andy Darren.
Please come to the microphone.
Again, I thought of one more thing around the street issue with Trent Creek and 17. Right now, Trent Creek cannot handle any more traffic. It is full of potholes and pits, and it's not safe because, confession, my husband actually drove around on the other side of the road to go around the pothole to keep from driving our car through a pothole. And Trent Creek, from start to finish, is that bad a condition. So very adverse traffic. We really need to do something about that road. Whether it's the 43 extension and we have to wait, the road is terrible. And hopefully some of y'all will come out there and drive the area and realize how bad it really is. Thank you.
Have you been reported on these potholes?
Yes, DOT is aware. I spoke with them yesterday, actually, and they said that they would be working with somebody else as well.
Probably the organizer issue is that it's not a city owned street. Oh, okay. It's a private road, so about 3 different entities. Any more comments from the public?
Why does the city fix it if they don't own it?
If you have a question, could you
Oh, I'm
please?
sorry. Yeah, that was another question. I apologize. Why does the city fix the streets if they don't own it? Like you say, Trent Creek, that's 3 different people, yes?
Right.
Okay. So when you build potholes, do you bill those people that own that part of it?
We do it as a courtesy to the residents who have to drive the street every day.
Okay, I was just curious on how that's handled. So that's allowed throughout the city? If individuals own the property, it's, the city does it, and I get it.
Yeah, I can't speak how often it happens in other parts of the city. I just know that I've heard from you and many others for several years. And as a courtesy, the fact that the city residents travel on a private road, we would have done that.
Thank you.
And probably the same reason we're addressing the drainage problems.
There's no word public comments. I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Have a motion, do we have a second to close the public hearing?
Second.
Have a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Board?
So a couple of questions. One of them regarding the mobile home aspect. I thought I heard 2 different things, so I'd like to get a clarification. So they are allowed in R6.
Yes, sir.
But I thought I heard that they were not allowed in the city of Newton.
No, single wide is not allowed. Single wide is not allowed anywhere outside of the mobile home park.
Okay.
Within the city limits.
And how?
If you've got an existing one, you're allowed to replace it if you do so within 6 months of it being removed. As far as new installation in the city of Newton, no single wide. The only thing they're allowed are the Class B, as I mentioned earlier. They have to be at least 20 feet wide and come to pieces of wood.
Okay. And then the mobile home parks.
That would have to go through the design review program or process. I haven't gotten a mobile home park in the 3 years I've been in here. There's permit in 85, no, they're permitted already in 85, and special use permit already, they're not allowed by R6. And they're also special use in C3CH.
So is there any public input as to adding a mobile home park or adding a mobile home?
No, sir.
Also, I didn't hear in the presentation the recommendation of the planning and zoning board.
What was the question?
What was the recommendation?
Oh, unanimous approval. Recommendations.
Okay. So, another question. This area is in the ETJ. And so what is the process for it to move from, and when, from the ETJ into annexation of the city?
I defer that to the city attorney. They have to petition to be annexed for city sewer. The existing developments are city limits.
Right, but the areas that, some of the areas were rezoning, they're all in the city limits?
Yes, they're all in the city limits.
Then, so what is the process then for the multifamily dwellings? Is that the same as a developer process?
Multifamily in R6 is a special use permit, so it would have to go to the site plan review process and then to the Board of Adjustment. Same for A5, A5F,
Okay.
or 10A.
So special use.
Special use, yes, sir.
Or any questions?
Yes, I have a question, Mr. Boswell, right? Lockwood, I'm sorry. For as the public hearing is concerned, what is the time frame for your office or to put up, erect signs or place ads in newspapers or whatever, giving the citizens an opportunity to show up at these zoning?
We follow the general statute, which is a range of no more than 25 days and no less than 10 days.
Okay. And so did you have a lot of participants show up at this zoning?
The planning and zoning is not advertised, it's just, let me see, I think we had 5, but they were in support of the application. We didn't have a so far, I've gotten 2 phone calls about this one.
Board, I'm looking to you for direction.
Well, considering we've had 7 people to come speak tonight, and 5 of them don't want this rezoning to R10, and they had numerous good cause. I don't know what the time frame is for Mr. McCullough or whomever to actually have this property where it can be developed. And I think that this one young lady said there's only one way in, one way out, which is gonna create some issues when you start adding in more homes. So do anyone know Mayor Odham?
You said you were.
Sorry, Mayor Odham. Do you know of the time frame that possibly Highway 43 corridor will be coming into existence? I mean, I know we're dealing with the state, and it's a lot of. Do you have a round idea of when?
Highway 43 connector started the discussion, Scott, back in the late 90s. Yes, sir. I believe. I was still in high school. I do know that from an MPO perspective, which I'm no longer on the MPO, the last update we had was it was got put on hold a couple years ago when DOT went bankrupt. But now they are in a much more solid position, was the last thing we were told.
Another question for staff. I'm sorry, I should know this. Is currently zoned what?
Let me go back.
And let me know what is allowed in that zone.
So, the green area underneath the crosshatching. The crosshatched area
I'm just
is,
talking about the area that's in question.
yes, the crosshatched area is the area in question. And so underneath the crosshatched area, it's green. And so all of that is A5F. There's only the small little rectangle on the left that is A5. And so the crosshatching is kind of overlaying the current zoning. And there's only one tiny, tiny bit, you can't even see it on this drawing, but there is a white bubble that points to an R10 area that is just the width of the road between the two developments, right at the end of Trent Creek Road. There is no R10 land in this except for that road.
Is that, where is that map, is Craeberne Forest not currently R10?
Yes, but that's not being rezoned.
But the one beside it is zoned, the empty space at the end of Savoy?
Out of respect for the process, I get you have a question for public hearings.
Okay.
So now you asked the permitted.
Yes, yes, our Craeberne Forest, according to the map, is R10.
That's correct.
Let me back up. The area with just the double hash marks in it, is that the only area in question for tonight?
No.
Okay.
Also,
So all that area that's got the slash marks in it, plus the double slash marks, whatever. So what is it, and it's currently zoned as A5?
A5
F?
for the large area.
Okay. And what can be allowed in an A5F?
It will start with residential, single family detached.
5 acre lots. 5 acre lots.
That's lots, thank you. Duplex, we've got 5 acre for the first unit, and then there's 20,000 square feet for each additional unit. For handicapped and front, but multifamily is allowed for special use permit. Elderly, housing, nursing care, child care, homes. Moving right along to office, government offices.
So offices can be there?
Government offices.
Government offices.
Nothing in manufacturing. Nothing in sales or retail, so now what we think of as traditional commercial. Libraries, located with a special use permit. Again, the privately owned outside recreation facilities and publicly owned as a special use permits. Golf course, horseback riding stables. In nursing care institutions. Prison is a special use. Veterinarian, establishments, kennels. Again, emergency services, police, fire, rescue. It's agricultural. We've got livestock, excluding livestock. It's a forestry operation with temporary sawmill, forestry operation without temporary sawmill, which is permitted by right. F is for forestry. And then utilities, communication towers, these are permitted. Everything in the market, if you don't have too much confidence in the microphone.
How about a solar farm?
That's going to be under a utility. That's a special use permit.
It's allowed, right?
Special use permit, yes, special use.
And just for the board's benefit, special use permit doesn't mean that it's not allowed or it can be denied. It just means it will be permitted, but there may be some conditions associated, some reasonable conditions associated with it.
Alderman Aster, for context, this is 413 acres they're asking to be rezoned.
Got about 7 acres in A5 and 0.4 acres approximately in R10. That's the lime share is like A5F.
Board have anything else?
Yes, I do, gentlemen, was there a reason why, Mr. McCullough wanted this to be rezoned to R6 and not keep it R10? Is it because he wanted to add in duplexes and see,
First of all, it is not currently R10.
okay.
It is currently A5F.
Right, that's what I'm saying, is there a reason why he doesn't want that to be R10?
I can't speculate to that. He did.
It would satisfy the residents that's already living there. That way, they can't bring in, the duplexes and multifamily homes or whatever. So, my concern here is the citizens are kind of a little bit upset with that because those, with some mobile homes can be bought in as well, on this double wide.
I understand it is his property. He's a developer. Multi-family apartments are going up everywhere. I was just toured Carolina Colors today, and there's hundreds of multi-family buildings going up out there right now. The same thing is in Craeberne. And that's the only reason I know that's because that's the areas that I serve. I don't know if there's any in any of the other neighborhoods or not, but, I hate to, keep the guy from being able to develop his own property. And especially because we need homes.
All right. While campaigning, I found that the most important issue behind transparency is affordable housing. I don't like the term because it means different things to different people. But I define it as workforce housing, meaning affordable to a working couple, like it was addressed tonight. I find this request for rezoning to be consistent with our recently adopted land use plan and consistent with putting up more homes in the market that are affordable to our workforce. Therefore, I make the motion to adopt a statement of zoning consistency for this request.
I'll second.
The motion, we have a second. Just to be safe, let's do a roll call, starting with Alderman Aster.
Yes. Oh, sorry.
Alderman Aster?
Yes.
Alderman Kinsey?
Yes.
Alderman Best?
No.
Alderman Brinson?
Yes.
Alderman Prill?
Yes.
Alderman Royal?
No.
Mayor Odham?
I'm not voting.
It carries.
Carries.
4-2.
Okay, so, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adopt an ordinance to rezone these tax parcels from A5F to R10. I'm sorry, from A5F, R10, R10A to R6.
Have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Second, do a roll call, starting with Alderman. Do I go now? Kinsey, sorry.
Yes.
Alderman Kinsey?
Yes.
Alderman Best?
No.
Alderman Brinson?
Yes.
Alderman Prill?
Yes.
Alderman Royal?